Okay, thanks everyone for joining us today. We're going to hear from one of the Long Run's founding members, Wolwedans, also one of our 11 Global Ecosphere retreats. The Global Ecosphere Retreat Standards, just to give you a bit of background, is based on our 4C framework. So this provides nature-based businesses with a holistic balance of conservation, community, culture, and commerce. It's often cited as one of the most rigorous sustainability standards in the tourism industry, involving both on-site and off-site assessment. And we're delighted today to have Stephan Bru, Managing Director of Wolwedans, who's going to talk us through the 2025 vision and a new initiative to help revive the local economy. So Stephan, I'm going to hand over to you. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Holly. Thanks for the intro. And if I wanted to talk about the 25-year vision, I think we would need the whole afternoon. So it's as the invite said, I'm going to talk a little bit about consciousness, our Wolwedans 5C, and how we got there. And you can't look at that without looking at a little bit into our 25-year vision. And then the main part of the talk is about RuralRevive, a project that forms part of our vision. Right. Now, for some reason. All right, just quickly where we are. We are in southwestern Namibia, about an hour's flight, 15 minutes flight southwest of the capital. And by car, it's a good 6 hours, and there's different ways. Then we are centered in the heart of Namibia Nature Reserve. It's a private conservation project my late father Albi started 40 years ago. And Namibia today comprises some 60,000 acres of pristine wilderness. And the reserve sustains itself through low impact, high yield tourism and the collection of park fees from tourists. And it worked perfectly well until 3 years ago, but that's another story. Wolwedans comprises 4 camps, of 2 of which are now operational. The other 2 are sort of still in a slumber. This is Dune Camp that was renovated first post-COVID, and this is a visual of the recently opened Plains Camp. It's like a private villa, sleeping 8. This is Boulders Camp, where we started renovations on Monday. So this beautiful camp has been sleeping for 3 years, and it shows Mother Nature just sort of took over. And Wolwedans is definitely more than a collection of camps. So we are doing a whole lot of different things, and one of the main ones is vocational training. So we started that 14 years ago, and we have trained about 350 young Namibians in the field of hospitality. Last year we started our first pilot in horticulture training. Horticulture was defined even pre-COVID as one of our future legs to stand on, and if we want to also drive that commercially, we obviously need trained gardeners. So we started that, and in future we want to do facility maintenance. So I'm quite convinced that in 5 years' time, if you ask people what do they associate with the name Wolwedans, maybe they will say it's a vocational training center, which obviously feeds in our community scene. This is where we are. There's a bird-eye view of our village, as we call it. It's the logistic base. Some hundreds people are teaming around here doing stuff. The tourism enterprises are supported from this village. It's our reception, and it's home. Then Wolwedans consists of 3 building blocks. We have a land holding which owns 2.5 farms and all brick and mortar buildings of this village. Then we've got Namibia Safaris, which is a operating company and the commercial arm running the Wolwedans collection, and then we have the Wolwedans Foundation, which these days is actually, you know, becoming a very important partner in the whole mix. Yeah, as Holly said, we've been co-founders of the Long Run. It was a very interesting, exciting period. We abide by the 4 Cs, and we have done that really very intensively from, say, 2010 to 2020. Maybe at times too much so, because yeah, I sometimes got the careful hint that I should maybe, as the leader or driver of Wolwedans, focus a bit more on our product and service delivery and less on sustainability, which in hindsight I must say was, you know, it was a fair assessment. Yeah, so we did that for 10 years very intensively. But then sort of in 2019, we had just the sustainability award here in Namibia, and I sort of thought, okay, that's a nice accolade. But it started to dawn on me that sustainability was now becoming mainstream, which is exactly what we all wanted, right? And it is not something Wolwedans can sort of stand out with, and especially with the big guys like the Wildernesses and Beyonds of this world who printed these fantastic reports. It was clear to me something maybe needs to be looked at, and maybe we need to look for something new. And then what also obviously happened, it was this year of Fridays for Future. There was so much writing on the wall that big change is apparent. And that was sort of where we were in the end of 2019. And yeah, out of that thought process, in that period, I stumbled across a book called The Second Curve by Charles Handy, which I can really recommend everybody to read. And what the second curve basically says is you start something and you build it up, and then you might get a bit complacent and comfortable, and then you might miss the boat. And I mean, there's many examples. Take, for instance, Kodak missing digital photography, Nokia missing mobile phones, etc. And I think for Wolwedans, we were exactly, you know, it sounded familiar. I think we were exactly there in that transition, with the potential of things going backwards. And the second curve says you need to launch yourself into something new. I mean, literally reinvent yourself in order to not go down. And that was the period we were in. And that was a very deep thought process. And yeah, coming back to this word cloud, there was one word there that stuck out for me, and I thought, okay, the writing is on the wall. This is going to be it. You know, it's now the next 10 to 15 years for us would be under the umbrella of this. And then I pitched it to our marketing and sales colleagues in Cape Town, Suzanne, Bailey, them, and they said, Stephan, it's not going to work. It's too early. It will scare customers away. And then I was not quite willing to give up on this. And I went into a sort of cosmic reflection. And it might be quite a scary slide, but you know, there were a lot of things rumbling in my head. And after you know, good thought process and yeah, interesting things like putting not only looking at it from a head perspective, but also physical, I came to the conclusion that we should add consciousness as a fifth C into our 4C mix. And we then planned a major workshop end of March 2020, theme changing into fifth gear. And at that workshop, we wanted to introduce and formalize the future of Wolwedans, which is based on 3 concepts: balance, we get to that just now, the pursuit of happiness, quite importantly, which is also, I think, quite a conscious exercise, and then the 5C sustainability and a clear commitment to carry on and try to do better. This is quite interesting because we had guests who, when you count down the 4 C's on your 4 fingers and then you leave the consciousness one for last, somebody said, try to do something with your 4 fingers, like handling a tool or so. It's only the thumb that makes the hand a tool. And I find that analogy actually quite nice because the consciousness works obviously into every C for us and makes that an effective tool. Balance is obviously, we all know the balance of people, planet, and profit. It's just an approach, but in our case, it's very much the balance of monies we collect for doing good, for conservation, community culture, etc., and net profit. I don't want to go too much into the slide, but you see blue is net profit and green is warm money, as I call it, that we collect. And it's I saw that in Kenya now. I mean, it's becoming very the norm to collect a conservation levy of sorts on top of your accommodation rate. And in our case, it's really then the end result is a 50-50. And then COVID hit us like everybody else. I'm not going to go there. Right. And the happiness is just, basically, I think, quite a revolutionary approach for a business to say, we are more interested in the happiness of course, our clients, but also the staff and the trainees and people than the bottom line. And it really changes the whole way you run your business. The concept comes from Bhutan, and in a nutshell, in order to be happy, you need to be in harmony with yourself, in harmony with others, and obviously in harmony with nature. And it's a beautiful concept which actually warrants a talk in its own. So there we've got our 5 C's that are all interconnected, and that was gonna be launched, and then Corona hit, this gave me a wonderful opportunity to bring a sense of order into this muddle of concepts, ideas, and so. And in that regard, COVID for us could not have come at a better time, because I was very concerned how we gonna introduce this concept of happiness and consciousness and balance into hardline management heads. They would have hated it. They hated me for sustainability, and they would have hated me even more for doing this to them. So it was really fantastic to have a year of complete standstill, complete reshuffle. And the outcome of that thought process was then what I call the Matrix 25, which is basically the 5 C's. Let's jump one slide. It's the 5 C's. It's 5 different spheres of activity that we embark on, and you can see here how we now practically define consciousness, or what we want to do. So the first box is advocacy. That's basically getting the message out there. The second one is heart and home. That's basically a look behind the scenes of how we operate the whole sustainability thing, which is a very conscious exercise for your head. Then we are looking into the whole slow food and slow life movement with your whole food offering. We are looking at retreats. This is the big one. Family retreats, happiness retreats, mindfulness, etc. Really changing the way we sell our beds at Wolwedans, and we will repurpose the desert lodge entirely to cater for this. And then also we want to put more consciousness into our experiences, the activities. And then you've got these other fields, and this Matrix 25 is our strategy for the next 25 years, which we call the AridEden Project. Long story, how we got there. I think it's a very befitting name. The AridEden speaks both to the Namib Desert. It speaks to this place, Wolwedans, that village that you saw, where we are going to plant 350 additional trees, and it will just be an oasis one day. And very importantly, it's an Eden for your soul. It's a good place with a positive energy. This is our project logo. It's made up of the Hoodia. It's an endemic plant that grows in the Namib and Kalahari deserts. It's got this very particular flower. It's got this little seedling that looks like a little happy being. And this plant inspired our logo with the colors and so on. Then we have a wordmark logo, and importantly, we have this happy being sign. And it's it's obviously human, but it could also be an animal. This is actually our new project logo, which might have been also inspired by this photo I took of my hero Doug Tompkins. That kind of gesture is and that brings us to RuralRevive. How are we doing with time? Oh, we're good. So RuralRevive, if we come back to this slide, that matrix 25, you see there it is under community. This is how it was defined, and it is actually a project that started before COVID. We wanted to shift our laundry operations to Malta-Höhe. Okay, I'm going to jump this slide. So you see where it is. It is one of 25 work packages. I must say it is one of the biggest ones we have tackled, and the most ambitious one probably. And so let me go back a bit before COVID. So we wanted to establish a laundry operation there for 3 reasons. Commercial sea, save money. Conservation sea, save water in the desert. Malta-Höhe, which is 180 kilometers east of us, has plenty of water. And community sea, rather let those 5 lonely ladies work at home and look after their children than having them down here at Wolwedans. And that was the start. And then Malta-Höhe has this very unique situation that there's no sewage system. So every property has a sewage pit on their yard, and if it's full, you call council and they come and pump it empty. And with the laundry and the extensive water you use there, it was clear that we would have to call them probably 3 times a week, because the idea was also to scale the laundry up and make it available for others. So then we decided, let's recycle that water and use it for horticulture, because we could already see that, in order to feed Wolwedans, all the stuff and the guests, we would have to quadruple our areas or gardens, and we don't want to do that in the desert. So that was the original plan. If we then were going to build greenhouses, we thought then we might as well do training in horticulture to the locals there in terms of food security and so on. And that project we pitched to the Social Security Commission here in Namibia, who liked it. They could see the potential for job creation, and it became a match funding thing. And then COVID hit, and then we couldn't match fund, and they encouraged us to find another donor, which we then did in the form of the Julius Baer Foundation in Switzerland. And their big theme is wealth inequality, and that gave the project a whole new direction, because now the question was, how can we connect the wealth of the tourism industry in our region? And I didn't mention that initially. So Namibia's #1 tourist attraction, Sossusvlei, that's those wonderful big dunes. That's about 100 kilometers north of Wolwedans, and it is also part of our region or constituency. So you have this very flourishing, wealthy tourism industry, well, not quite on the doorstep, but of Malta-Höhe, which is 180 kilometers further to the east, and the only and first town. And how could you connect that with the poverty and the destitution and the hopelessness of Malta-Höhe? And that gave the whole RuralRevive project a whole new sort of direction. And then that's where we are now. That's what we're going to cover. So this is the town. Incidentally, Malta-Höhe is where the tar road ends and the gravel road starts, or the adventure. The slide is maybe a little bit out of place, but the idea of RuralRevive really is to make it a blueprint that can be copy pasted into other rural areas in Namibia and beyond, of course. And what we see quite interesting here now is that, a good idea, the 4 C's, approach in Wolwedans is now really starting to branch out, and we are copy pasting the whole concept into a completely new area, which I find very rewarding. And RuralRevive is very much invested in the 5 C's. Let me read this to you. The project aims to create a model for a diversified local economy in the Namib Desert and creates entrepreneurial and employment opportunities for the underprivileged women and men of Malta and surrounds. Market linkages with the substantial tourism sector demand in the area would be established by creating a local marketplace, while sustainability and prospects to participate directly and indirectly in this desert-based economy would be assured through capacity building programs. And so the objective really in a nutshell is to build a desert-based economy and create marketplaces and more. That's really driving it. So the whole project has gotten. So the number 1 in driving force is enterprise. Then we are looking at horticulture, education, resources, that's water and energy, solid waste, and those are the 5 work packages we are currently busy with. And then in the future it would be added with basic healthcare, transport, logistics. That's a very important one that's already also in the pipeline. And then culture, heritage, and media ecology. And the whole thing is based on the 5 C's, and that is a very broad approach. And we've got we did a really nice workshop with our steering committee, which is people from the community, from the school, politics, church, etc., youth, and these are our values for the project. It's very rooted, it's connected, original, rewarding, organic, unlike in organic growth. It's changing, empowering, inclusive, nobody's left behind, transparent, and obviously highly sustainable. Then we, this is the analogy where the tar road. So there's the main road of Malta, and then there's sort of 2 rows of streets, north and south of it. And this is a very unique Namibian road sign, which indicates where the tar road ends and the gravel starts. And we use this road sign as a basis for our identity, our logo. And the logo actually speaks the whole story. So we quickly go there. On the right, you've got this T junction, and that's very it's a landmark of Malta, the T junction. And symbolically, it says, we as humanity, we have got 2 choices. We can choose the right track, or we just carry on with business as usual to the detriment of our future. Then it sort of speaks into the circularity versus linear economy. And then we've got those 9 points. You remember those 9 fields of activity. I think they're actually coming. And the colorful ones, that's tapping into the branding of the AridEden Project. Those are the colors of the 5 C's. So enterprise is the centerpiece of the whole project. It's driving it and creating that opportunity. Then we've got the other fields. I'm not going to go through them again, and that's what the dots represent. They're obviously all interconnected. So for now, we have got 3 work packages in almost in completion. Let me go back. It's the laundry service. The laundry is starting to operate in the next 2 weeks. The next one that's now being developed is the horticulture project, greenhouses, etc. And we have created the barn, a fresh produce hub in Malta. The other projects that are in the making is the transport. solution that connects all these lodges with Malta Höhe, and then solid waste. We look into a bit more detail, but this is sort of the whole bigger picture. So the laundry is like the room where the linen are dried. There is it's the infrastructure is there. We bought 2 properties to make it happen. That was sort of the contribution of the Wolwedans Foundation, and this operation gets going quite soon. Horticulture is as I mentioned earlier on, the growing of staple vegetables. So we would encourage lodges and ourselves, of course, to do salad and herbs and delicate stuff at the lodges. So here we are looking at potatoes, onions, beetroot, carrots, anything that transports easily. And we are building a 1,500 square meter greenhouse on the premises, and hopefully that will start then after the winter. This is our seedling nursery. So from here you sort of in a way control what is produced, because if you left it to every small farmer to decide for themselves what they do, then you might end up with heaps of something and nothing of something else. So the idea is to manage the production through the seedling nursery, whereby small scale farmers would get seedling trays and they put them into the ground, and then also they have a guarantee that their produce is procured by the barn. That's the first. After the third work package, it's this building here on the left, which was it was quite an unimaginative square thing that's now become the barn, and we see that as a start for the first, say, 12 to 18 months, and then hopefully it will outgrow, and then for that we have bought another property. On the right there you can see a building that is the ironing room. It's very clean and hygienic, and it's got an aircon, and so that we really offer a professional service. This is the future barn, that the yellow building. It's a huge old retail store. It's got a beautiful look with that veranda. So we really see that also as an info center for tourists and so on. And then here on the right is a massive shed that could be used for small enterprise development and so on. So that's also actually a very interesting aspect of RuralRevive. If one looks at the amazing infrastructure that is there from the old farming days, that's all standing empty and dilapidated, you can actually get it so cheap, and that makes a lot of sense. We are thinking, for instance, with the education, if we start with vocational training, if you wanted to build all those facilities, it would cost an absolute fortune. And I mean, just to give you an idea, this building is valued for the insurance for 9 million Namibia dollars. So that's roughly 900,000, make it 500,000 US, and we bought it for 1/10 of that. So that is really an amazing opportunity in not only in Malta Höhe, but I think in every rural town the world over. Right, then we have obviously this work package transport. So you need to offer a transport solution for that connects all the lodges on a circular route with Malta Höhe. We are looking ultimately at 3 different routes that are serviced twice a week, where we transport obviously now fresh linen, collect dirty linen, vegetables, very importantly passengers. The whole top section will be like a bus, and then very importantly in the back we will transport recyclable waste from the lodges to Malta Höhe, where the 5th work package is the establishment of a recycling plant. This is our current truck, but it will, the Desert Runner will look very similar, because transport is so key, and because the whole thing needs to make commercial sense for lodges to come on board, we will try to pitch the whole transport solution to a donor and say, look, we need 2 trucks, we need small buses to connect people with a national transport grid. And ideally, we can get that sponsored and offer the transport as a non-profit for next to nothing. Right, these are the different routes, and you can see there's tons of. We worked it out. There's 1,600 beds in the area that could potentially become customers of whatever happens in Malta Höhe. And we have got one potential donor. It's one of the local banks who have now given us 50,000 Namibia dollars to conduct a survey or a feasibility study with all these lodges, and before they commit to become maybe a strategic partner. So you see, Wolwedans is here on the left. Yeah, there's just a lot of lodges on the way, and most of them come through Malta Höhe, but these days they just drive through. And unfortunately, many also just go there to dump their trash on a landfill, which is completely out of control. All right, and then consequently, our 5th work package is waste management. We are looking at I actually haven't got a picture of that. We are looking at again, dilapidated, empty government property that housed the roads contractor company. Massive infrastructure, perfectly suited. And for the waste management, we will team up with Rent-A-Drum. That's the biggest recycler in Windhoek, in the capital city, for their technical know-how. So this is the dump in Malta Höhe, where people just, including lodges, just dump their stuff. And this was just a little recce. The gentleman here in the middle is the technical director of this recycling company. And it just broke his heart to see how much waste has also been destroyed, because the moment you burn cans, for instance, you can't recycle them anymore. So it's the waste thing is going to be a very big one for us, maybe too big a chunk that we can chew. But it doesn't help. We do it all perfectly well in the Namib, and then in Malta Höhe, it's this disaster. This is just this is Wolwedans, so we are doing the whole thing, and we really want to set a benchmark and take it to a whole new level. This is our new waste facility where the waste is treated, stored, sorted, and you see we give it's a very nice infrastructure to cherish waste. We call it the gallery, and this is the link to consciousness. So we converted that waste or recycling plant into an art gallery, and this is our first exhibit. Incidentally, I think we sold this picture, the big one on the left, for $3,000 last week. The deal still has to be signed, but so I find it a very interesting example how you can put the different C's into action, because this is commerce, this is culture, this is conservation. It's a whole lot of things. We even sold our scrap. The thing on the right is going to be a beautiful celebration of scrap metal. Yeah, so that's that. Then part of the RuralRevive is a program called Economics. So it's the basics of business, skills transfer to the people there, and then enterprise development. And anything that can be done in Malta Höhe. It can be manufacturing, it can be production. Is encouraged. Think staff uniforms, overalls. It's actually endless. So the relevance of the project is obviously addressing climate change and CO2 mitigation by cutting out a lot of transport. Then it's addressing wealth inequality, and it addresses the rural decline, which is a global phenomena, even in Europe. The impact is obviously job creation and enhanced livelihoods, a cleaner environment, substantial water saving in the Namib Desert. That is really a problem with most lodges. The water tables are going. Laundries obviously consume a lot of water. It's skills transfer and capacity building. So in Wolwedans, we can only do that much, and we can't really have more than 50 trainees at any time. So if we want to scale things up, we need to go elsewhere, and that's going to be Malta Höhe, tapping into our knowledge, tapping into our resources, teachers, etc. So we can just multiply it very easily. Then obviously, there's regional growth of the economy, which has a lot of ripple effects and spin-offs, and it's an attempt to try and bridge the wealth inequality a bit, which is a real issue in Namibia. The idea is really that we learn our lessons. We are, of course, going to have many downfalls and disappointments, but the determination is there to make it happen. And I think that's these are our donors, just to give you an idea. So we raised about $500,000 for the project at this stage, and I'm sure it will be much more. And then on the horizon, we obviously have education. That's mainly vocational training, basic healthcare, resources. There's no reason why the whole town of Malta Höhe should ultimately, generate its own power. Waterways, then the whole media thing, and culture. And we are actually now at a very interesting point where the plan really is that within the next 12 to 18 months, we want to make RuralRevive its own legal entity, so that it is actually the ownership of the project goes to the people of Malta Höhe, and the Wolwedans Foundation just sort of facilitates a number of projects. And that would also open the project for other lodges who, or donors to come on board. So, we are not in the basic healthcare business, but maybe somebody else is. And that's I think, going to be quite a milestone. All right, and that's that. I'm going to run you through a few pictures. I think we are doing okay with time. It's 40 minutes now, so 5 minutes of pictures and then Q&A. Are you all still there, Holly? Hello?
Yeah, we're still here. It's brilliant, Stephan. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right. Right. So that picture is pretty brutal, but it shows the current status. It's speaking of a glorious bygone era with tennis courts and a thriving community, and now all that goes to waste. I'm sure that tennis court is going to become a wonderful big tree nursery, and you've got, a town with not much hope. Trash is a major problem. It's not managed. The village council is completely overwhelmed, having to deal with it. So nothing happens, or very little. And getting this place clean can't be that difficult. So that's an important step. This was the building we procured. The big shed in the back is where we will dry the linen. And this was our first consultative meeting with the community about a year ago, the day before we kicked off with the renovations. You can see that was still in COVID times. This is what it looks like now. Renovated existing buildings, new buildings. It's got this very nice campus feeling, and we actually also now start calling it a campus. That's the laundry washing machines. This is the seedling nursery in the making. This is the barn, or the first barn, with a permaculture project in the foreground, where we want to actually show people that you can also grow vegetables in your backyard without fancy greenhouses that most of them can't afford. That's first produce coming out of that garden. And this is obviously what we want to prevent, vegetables traveling in many instances still from South Africa to Windhoek, and then from Windhoek back to the lodges. So you know, this cabbage might have traveled 2,000 kilometers, where in future it should only travel 180 and not packed in cling wrap and plastic and polystyrene. This is the, you know, the normal picture in Malta Höhe. I would say 70% of the residents live like this, completely impoverished. Then there is a lot of farms in the neighborhood where there is livestock, which can obviously also one day be sold to a butchery. And on these farms, you get a lot of resettlement, where the government basically avails land to landless people. And they have a windmill that works or doesn't. We have teamed up with a NGO called Namibian Water, so they rehabilitate old water points. And once that has been established, we want to encourage these people to start growing vegetables that they can then sell at the barn. And after training, this is composting making. That was the opening of the laundry. It's a very colorful fair. This is sort of meeting people from the neighborhood. You know, I'm a well, not a townsperson, but for the last 27 years, when Malta Höhe was what it was, I just drove through there, and now I'm you know, I'm really building a relationship with that lifestyle in the countryside and meeting the people. It's really quite wonderful. Lots of characters. This is the truck that pumps out the drain, which is like a daily site in Malta Höhe. This is the start of our water treatment plant. So the laundry water will be treated to such an extent that we can use it for horticulture training. This is Lydia, she used to be our horticulture trainer in Wolwedans, but we shifted her now to Malta Höhe, and she does the training for the resettlement farmers, and she's got like 9 youngsters now that she's training. This is one of the locals who's got another region where they do these very funky overalls. So there's no reason why that shouldn't be done in Malta Höhe. And yeah, no, that brings me to the end of my slides. So Q&A.
Thanks so much, Stephan. That was absolutely brilliant. So much information in there and such a comprehensive project. I think it's incredible, and it really, for me, it kind of seems like it really moves way beyond tourism. This is about kind of a whole kind of economic restoration and regeneration. So it's really exciting. But thank you so much for all those examples. I'm pretty envious of everyone here who's going to get to go and see it in person soon. And I hope I think that's going to be a really inspiring time for the South African hub meeting. So I think we're at 12 o'clock, so we're going to wrap up now. Thanks again, Stephan, for all your time today and the amazing inspiration. Thanks everyone for joining and for your questions, and look forward to seeing you all again soon.